An ABC investigation has confirmed that more than 35 violent deaths in Australia are linked to men who spent their teens in the same notorious boys' home. The Institution for Boys Tamworth was opened in 1947 and quickly gained a reputation as the most feared prison in the land. Some of its alumni include the nation's most infamous killers and criminals, Arthur Stanley Neddy Smith, George Freeman and William Munday. Jeff Thompson reports.
Tamworth Boys Home was known as the toughest institution probably in the whole of Australia.
When you got to Tamworth, you were beaten. As soon as you got in the door, you were starved, you were tortured, and you just degraded.
You know, you just had that attitude, kill or be killed. Like, everyone come out there the same. That's why there's so many bloody murders.
Faced with a problem of absconding youths, the New South Wales Child Welfare Department established the Institution for Boys Tamworth in 1947. The cold and closed brick walls of a former colonial prison were chosen as the place to punish young men aged 15 to 18 who were already living in the state's boys' homes. Those who badly misbehaved or tried to escape were packed off to Tamworth to be strictly disciplined. It was an experience they would never forget.
You're never the same when you go to Tamworth. When you go to Tamworth and you come out, you're never the same.
Now 67 and living on the Gold Coast, Keith Kelly was sent to Tamworth when he was just 16. The institution's draconian discipline and alleged regular beatings still define his life.
You're not allowed to talk to another inmate. You've got to be 6 foot away from another inmate. You can't look at another inmate. If you turn your head a little bit, they'll put a box on your head and put 2 pinholes in it. And you're forced to march around all day with that box on your head. Starvation was the main punishment, apart from solid confinement.
Keith Kelly claims he was twice beaten because he refused the sexual demands of a Tamworth guard.
The only difference between Tamworth, Norfolk Island and Port Arthur was at Tamworth you never got the cat and 9 tails.
Following a Freedom of Information request to the Department of Family and Community Services, 730 has obtained a comprehensive list of men who were sent to Tamworth Boys Home as teenagers. Because of privacy concerns, surnames were redacted, but a process of cross-checking Christian names with dates of birth has revealed that many of Australia's most notorious killers and criminals went through Tamworth's gates. They include Arthur Stanley Neddy Smith, who was charged with 8 murders and convicted of 2. James Finch, who lit the 1973 Whiskey A Go-Go fire, which killed 15 people, which at the time was Australia's worst mass murder. The alleged Sydney crime lord George Freeman was another graduate of the place he dubbed the ultimate finishing school for crims. Kevin Crump, whose file has been stamped never to be released for his depraved killing of Virginia Morse. Serial killer Archibald McCafferty, who randomly killed 3 men in the street and later another man in prison. Notorious rapist Billy Munday was another Tamworth boy who wrote in his autobiography that, "When I take time to reflect now on my days in Tamworth and what they did to me, I can almost lay blame there for what I've done."
It's about time these people got looked after, even the old ones, because every one of them would still be screwed up. I feel it. I'm 67. I feel it. I don't like to talk about it.
Des Drury also grew up in boys' homes, but never made it to Tamworth. He went on to spend 18 years working as an officer in adult prisons, where he says Tamworth's reputation still ricochets around the walls.
This is some of the reason why a lot of these blokes went the way they went. I suppose if you knock around with violence long enough, you become violent yourself. Every form of torture that could be possibly done without using implements was done. Neddy Smith was a very, very tough man, as I think that everyone knows. He's also a very violent man, I think, as also everybody knows. But the only place he ever commented on was Tamworth Boys Home.
Former inmates speak of being forced to hold stress positions, and while in solitary, run iron bars continually against the bars of their cell. All talk of being forced to push large sandstone blocks across the floor.
You put on holly stones, big stones, buddy, rubbing them backward and forwards on a board floor, just starved. Just the way you were treated.
Despite his experiences at the institution, Bob McClelland later befriended some of the guards.
You never forget it. I've talked to the screws from up there, and they reckon they had nightmares working there even, because they had the job to do, I suppose. But they didn't like what they'd done, but they had to do it, I suppose.
You were getting bashed by men, kneed and kicked. You couldn't fight back because that'd be the last thing in the world you'd want to do.
Bob Conair was sent to Tamworth when he was 16 and was later jailed for assault and robbery.
Nobody knows whether it led me to a life of crime, but it certainly never helped. As you see now, talking to me, going back there, it's pretty scary. I couldn't go through it again in any situation.
Senior forensic psychologist Dr. Michael Daffern says that it is difficult to blame specific acts of violence on any one experience.
What we can say here is that exposing individuals to a punitive or abusive environment, or any sort of abusive treatment where they're exposed to violence from an early age, where they learn that violence is an acceptable way of solving problems, is going to be problematic, and it's only going to help them learn or consolidate a violent repertoire.
One day I was going to get an inmate that was beside me. He had said you had to sit like that at the table. I was going to grab him and to get my fork or knife. I was going to push into him, try to do as much damage as I could. I didn't care if I killed him.
What do you think it did to young men?
Turned them into killers.
You think there was a chance that they were killers before they went there?
No, not that many. No, it's changed your attitude altogether when you've been in there.
And a clarification, the Endeavour House mentioned has no association with not-for-profit organisation, the Endeavour Foundation. Jeff Thompson with that report.